Hello, Thomas Malchow here. In this video, I'm going to show you 4 things you can do at home. This will only take you 4 minutes, but if you do them consistently, you'll increase the depth of your backswing, improve your sequencing, increase your club head speed, and transfer more energy to the ball at impact. It all adds up to more consistent ball striking and more distance. And oh yeah, if you have shoulder pain, it will help with that as well. We're talking about improving the health of your rotator cuff in this video. Now we're going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to show you the routine first, and then I'll give you the scientific reasoning afterwards. Let's get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is release or inhibit our posterior deltoid. So the posterior deltoid runs from the spine of the shoulder blade, which is right here, to the deltoid tuberosity. So the muscle runs in this direction here, okay? I'm going to place a ball in the ground. We can use a lacrosse ball, a myofascial release ball, softball, whatever you have, and situate my body so that the ball is applying pressure to that muscle. Okay, so I'll get down to position here, place the ball down first, and I'm surveying that area, looking for the most tender spot. Now, a couple things about the setup here. You want your knees probably bent just so that you're comfortable, and you do not want any weight on this arm. You don't want to be holding yourself up. You want to relax right into that ball. This can be quite sensitive, and again, you're looking for the most tender spot. Okay, it's right behind your armpit. The pressure applied by the ball initiates a reflex inside the muscle, which encourages the muscle to relax. Okay, so we would hold this for 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Again, survey around, look for the most tender spot. That's the area we're targeting. Okay, so the second thing we're going to do is inhibit or release the subscapularis muscle. Subscapularis is part of the rotator cuff. It runs from the anterior or front surface of the shoulder blade and inserts into the anterior portion of the shoulder capsule. Okay, so it's a little difficult to get out. I'll show you how to reach it. We'll get down on your back first, and we'll do our left side. Now, when we're laying here like this, the subscapularis is covered by our ribs. We can't get at it, but we can expose it by bringing our hand behind our head. Okay, doing that forces our shoulder blade to upwardly rotate, and we start to have it peek out just in this area here. Okay, now there's a few tissues in the way. Latissimus dorsi is in the way. Teres major is in the way, but if you push through those tissues, you'll run into bone. And on the front surface of that bone is subscapularis. Now, you could survey from here all the way into your armpit, looking for the most tender spot. There'll be probably 2 trigger points that you'll find that are quite sensitive. Something to be aware of, if you feel any burning, move your fingers. There are some nerves in this area. You're not going to do any damage, but you might run into them and it could be a little uncomfortable. Again, you're not going to do any damage though. Find the most tender spot, hold that for 30 seconds to 2 minutes. You could also use a lacrosse ball if you prefer. I prefer to use my fingers just because it allows me to get a little deeper. Again, survey around, look for the most tender spot. That's the area we're looking for. Okay, so the third thing we're going to do is lengthen or stretch pectoralis minor, subscapularis, and pectoralis major. Okay, so we're going to use a foam roller. I have a yoga block here to extend mine a little bit. We're going to lay back on the foam roller with our head resting on the end. Okay, now for some people, just getting into this position will be quite challenging. So in that case, where we could start is just with your hands on your stomach, let your elbows drop down to the ground, and this will actually stretch your pec minor a little bit. We can progress from this to bringing our hands behind our head or beside our head and letting our elbows fall down to the ground. This now incorporates subscapularis and pectoralis major into the stretch. Okay, now we can progress this stretch by extending our elbows and bringing our hands down to the ground. Extending the elbows makes the lever arm longer, which increases the amount of force pulling on the subscapularis and pectoralis major. Do be careful with this progression. If you feel any numbness or burning in your hand, that could be an indication that you're stretching your median nerve, in which case come back to this stretch here. Okay, so we would hold this for 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Okay, so the fourth and final thing we're going to do here with this routine is activate. Infraspinatus and teres minor. These two muscles are part of your rotator cuff. They both externally rotate the shoulder joint, and so to activate them, we're going to externally rotate the shoulder against resistance. You may have seen this exercise before. We're going to make it better. We're going to make it more efficient. For every muscle that we do isolated activation for, there will be overactive synergists that have to be inhibited. The overactive synergists for this movement are the supraspinatus and the posterior deltoid. Okay? The supraspinatus abducts the shoulder, and so we can reciprocally inhibit it by adducting the shoulder by squeezing our ribs with our elbows. Okay, so as we externally rotate, we squeeze our body. That will keep supraspinatus reciprocally inhibited. Okay, the posterior deltoid extends the shoulder, so we can reciprocally inhibit it by putting the shoulder into a little bit of flexion, right? So if we grab our band here, palms up, thumbs out, and I'm squeezing my ribs and I'm moving my elbows forward a bit and then externally rotating, that is isolated activation for the infraspinatus and teres minor. I can make this even better though by getting up against the wall. So I get my head up against the wall, get my chin tucked in, I have neutral alignment in my lumbar spine, I externally rotate for 2 seconds, hold for 2 seconds, and then return for 4, 3, 2, 1. So back out, 2, hold for 2, back for 4. Okay, making sure that I keep my elbows pressed against my body. As soon as they start to float out away from my body, supraspinatus is going to be activated. I also don't allow my elbows to extend back this way. If my shoulder extends back, I'm just getting posterior deltoid. Okay, so keep those elbows forward and against your ribs, 12 to 20 repetitions. All right, so why did we do the routine that we just did? Why did I get you to do those things in that order? Everything that I give you is very carefully selected and done in a very specific order. That routine was done to improve the performance and the health of your rotator cuff. Your rotator cuff is comprised of 4 muscles. They all originate from your shoulder blade, and they all insert directly into the shoulder capsule itself. 2 of the muscles originate from the back of the shoulder blade and insert into the back of the shoulder capsule, and therefore they run behind the shoulder joint, and because of that line of pull, they externally rotate the shoulder, and those 2 muscles are infraspinatus and teres minor. One of the muscles originates from the front of the shoulder blade, inserts into the front of the shoulder capsule, and therefore runs in front of the shoulder joint, and because of that line of pull, internally rotates your shoulder, and that is subscapularis. The last muscle is called supraspinatus. It originates from the top of your shoulder blade, inserts into the top of the shoulder capsule, therefore runs above the shoulder joint, and it abducts the shoulder. Right now, although the 4 muscles of the rotator cuff all rotate the shoulder in various directions, their primary job is to stabilize the shoulder joint. You see, the shoulder joint is a ball and socket joint, but the ball is enormous in comparison to the socket. If we were to think of the head of the humerus as being the size of a golf ball, then the socket would be the size of a tee. So imagine a golf ball sitting on top of a tee. That's your shoulder joint. It's very unstable, and the rotator cuff is there to stabilize the joint, not just making sure that the ball stays on top of the tee, but that the alignment of the joint remains optimal, because if the alignment changes in any way, the surfaces don't line up correctly when the joint moves, that increases wear and tear on your joint, reduces your mobility, and it's called arthrokinematic dyskinesis. Unfortunately, most of us have arthrokinetic dyskinesis, and that's because most of us have imbalances around our shoulder joint and within our rotator cuff. And we can describe those imbalances in terms of altered length tension relationships of the various muscles. Okay? Every muscle has a very specific length and tension that it performs best. And by best, I'm referring to highest force output, highest coordination, and fastest reflexes. If its length tension relationship changes in any way, that is, if it becomes too short, too long, overactive, underactive, the muscle's force output will go down, its coordination will go down, and its reflexes will slow down. Simply put, altered length tension relationships or muscle imbalances make you slow and uncoordinated. Being slow and uncoordinated is not good for golf. Think about what having slow and uncoordinated shoulders does to your swing. Now think about the moment of impact. Everything you've done in your swing sequence up to that point has been done for the sole purpose of generating as much energy as possible. And the purpose of impact is to transfer as much of that energy as you can to the ball, because the more energy you transfer to the ball, the farther the ball's going to go, right? But if you have imbalances around your lead shoulder, and the force output of your shoulder is down, and its coordination is down, and its reflexes are slow, what's that going to do to the transfer of energy to the ball? It's going to go down. You're not going to hit the ball as far, and because the shoulder is unstable and uncoordinated, you're not going to hit the ball consistently. An unstable shoulder is going to increase wear and tear on the joint. It's going to lead to inflammation. It's going to lead to pain. It's going to lead to a decrease in performance, and it's going to lead to a sad golfer. But by doing the things that we did in the order that we did them, we can restore balance around your shoulder joint. We can improve your mobility, increase the depth of your backswing, improve the coordination of the joint itself, improving your sequencing, and transferring more energy to the ball. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.